Hello, historians. This is Mr. Fredo, and it saddens me to think about we're in our final round of mini lessons for the entire school year as we begin our final unit, the Age of Exploration. The very first thing we need to examine is why people wanted to explore to begin with. And really, what this boils down to is desire, real desire. Not like you getting off your couch after 10 hours of Netflix to make a sandwich or something like that. Desire to do something so incredible while at the same time very much risking your life. These voyages were nearly impossible. There was a better chance that you would die than there was for you to survive. So the desire had to be pretty great. You had to be pretty inspired to want to be able to go on one of these voyages. But this is really where it all begins. So that's where we're going to start. Why are people motivated to explore? Well, look no further than the Renaissance as we begin and that big connection to humanism, which we've talked about many times before. This belief in the power of the individual and that anything was possible, the sparks of ingenuity and the sparks of intelligence flying all over the place and the sparks of desire itself to accomplish something great. Huge connection to the Renaissance that started around 150 to 200 years prior to the Age of Exploration really getting underway. Another main factor, a common theme throughout history, is a hatred of taxes. Many people want to explore and have a strong desire to explore because they hate taxes. And what they really wanted were spices from India and the Spice Islands. But the only way they could get them prior to the Age of Exploration would be to travel through the Mediterranean Sea, which was a route controlled by the Italians. So the explorers from Spain or Portugal, for example, would have had to pay very heavy taxes, or they could travel over land, where again, they would have to pay very, very high taxes because those were controlled by the Muslims. So all of this really gets started by, instead of using those routes to the Spice Islands in India that already existed, the ideas come around to, let's find a different way to get there, whether it's sailing around the southern tip of Africa or trying to sail west like Columbus did. It all begins with a desire of spices and a complete and utter hatred for taxes. Let's find a different way to get there. Every other reason, most historians believe, can be boiled down to the 3 G's: gold, glory, and God. Some people wanted to explore for wealth. They had heard stories about territories in the New World or in other places that promised very, very high amounts of precious metals like gold. They wanted to go there and find these big loots of gold so that they could be secured for the rest of their life. Glory. They wanted to be a hero to their country. If you were an explorer and you truly found something like a territory of land or a new route, you would have become a hero to your country, which also would have meant that you brought great fame and great fortune to your family. That was a very, very big motivating factor for many explorers during this time. And then lastly, God, and there's 2 sides to this. Some people traveled to spread their religion, like with missionaries. Others were fleeing the power of the Catholic Church. So there's 2 sides to the God component here. Okay, but in general, whatever it was, whether it was a connection to humanism, how much they hated taxes and how badly they wanted to get spices, whether they wanted to get rich, whether they wanted to be a hero, or whether they wanted to flee for religious purposes, whatever their reason was, it had to have been a pretty darn good one, because they knew as soon as they stepped foot on that boat, they were risking their life. So these motivating factors had to be very, very, very significant.